Hi, George Freestone, and I'm back again, this time with episode number 30 of Our Baseball Journey, the story of my wife Carol and my visits to all 30 of the then current Major League ballparks. This episode, lucky number 30, takes us to Anaheim to see the Angels play the Indians. Not quite the Guardians yet, still the Indians. And for those of you who have been following along the various episodes, you'll know that we flew into San Francisco, took in a athletics game, then drove down to Los Angeles, where we saw first a Dodgers game, then moved a little bit further towards San Diego as we went to Anaheim. And here indeed, we are just outside the ballpark with the two caps in front of Angels Stadium. So with that, I am going to share my desktop and get to the slide that we will use for talking about this wonderful visit to see the Angels play the Indians. I'm going to start with some of these bullets just running down the side of the slide. As you can see, the first bullet says, view of the Angels Stadium from our hotel room. And indeed, this was taken from our hotel room with a zoom lens on my camera. But we were within very comfortable walking distance, within a mile or two, to Angels Stadium. And this pyramid with a halo on top. Sometimes I think the Angels used to be called the Halos, was, I think, just to the side of the ballpark, close to the highway as an attraction there. And you can see that halo right here. Now, frequently, as Carol and I get to these ballparks early, we walk around both the outside and the inside of the parks, and sometimes we take in the field tours. We didn't do that here at Anaheim, but we did walk around the park. You can see us, I think this is from the right field side of things. It's a panoramic view, and there's a little bit of distortion with stands, but there you can see the diamond. So we were walking around the ballpark, both inside and out. And when we got to one corner, there was a concession for Cox Communication, I guess the Comcast of maybe the West Coast. And they had the ability to take green screen pictures with, of course, the attraction being the Cox Communication logo on each of the pictures. We've got these digital images, and I'm not sure I can tell you either of the players based upon their very handsome autographs here, but we've got a number if we really want to look up the one guy for the Angels. So we got those two photos, and all of the photos from the game, as well as from everything else on this slide, with the exception of Disneyland, is available in this link right here. So if you go to the slides, of course, you can't do it from the image on YouTube, but if you get to the slides, and you get to them by looking at the description for the YouTube playlist for Our Baseball Journey that groups all the episodes together, in the description for that playlist, you will see a link for the slides, and it will take you to the slides. Then you can go and use this active link to get to the box score for the game, or you can go here, as I said, for the game or for everything except Disneyland, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So at the game, Carol and I sat just 3 rows back. And we really were very fortunate to be seeing the Angels, who had a number of stars still playing with them. And we kind of sat in a contingent of Shohei Ohtani Japanese women fans who were very pleased to see Shohei. Now, he struggled a little bit during the game, and you'll see that when we talk right here. I think he went 0 for 4 in this Cleveland Indians victory. Again, the box score is right here. Cleveland had the better record at the time. And again, this was in September, so we were closing out the 2019 baseball season. In that game, it was a pretty equal offensive game. I believe that the Indians had 9 hits and the Angels had 7. Shane Bieber for Cleveland got his 14th win, going 7 innings in that particular game. And you can see a few of the batters here. There's some reference to them coming up. First of all, this is Yasiel Puig. We saw him in a very good shot when we went to see the Nationals. He was walking back to the dugout in a very dejected look on his face. But here he is as an Indian. And so that's what this Remember Puig is all about. Who's a Met now? Francisco Lindor was an Indian still at that time. Now he's a very productive New York Met, and many of you will know that I am indeed a Mets fan. But I grew up in Cleveland, and I think Cleveland, because of its access to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, may be the ballpark that we visited the most frequently. Now, I said that there were many Angel stars playing. I mentioned that the contingent that we sat close to here was a Shohei Ohtani cheering section or whatever. There were a lot of Mike Trout fans, and Albert Pujols also was playing for the Angels at this point, and it was a pleasure to see him. Okay, so the game went the Indians' way, and before we entered the park, I saw this gentleman outside, and his colors were red and white, which confused me a little bit. I wasn't sure that Rocky Colavito played at any point in time for the Angels, but those were indeed Angels colors. What I also found is they are also Indians colors from the past as well. Now, Rocky Colavito, the reason I bring him up is he lives in the same county that we do, and he's still with us. He's 91 years old, 91 years young or whatever, but this fan obviously still remembered Rocky. And so I did a little bit of research for Rocky and found that on June 10th, 1959, Rocky hit 4 consecutive home runs. Now, he also played in very close to our hometown, Reading, Pennsylvania. At the time, the farm club here was for the Indians in AA ball in 1953. Now it's a Reading Phillies farm club. And I also didn't realize that Rocky pitched for both the Indians in 1958 and the Yanks in 1968, as he was closing out his career in that year, 1968. And he had almost 3 innings of scoreless relief pitching for the Yankees. So just some interesting stuff there about our friend Rocky Colavito. Let's see, what else do we have with regard to the ballpark? This was inside Mickey Mouse and my wife, Carol. We have a selfie that we took in our very good seats. And I don't know, oh yes, I talked about Rocky. Here I have one of his earlier baseball cards to kind of pair with this fan. And that might be it for about the baseball side of things here, with the exception of this. This shows the retired Angels numbers. And I don't know if any of you can rattle off the various names that make up those numbers or those numbers belong to, but number 11 was Jim Fregosi. Number 26 for the 26th man was one nominated by the players, was the first owner of the Angels, Gene Autry, who was referred to as the singing cowboy. Gene owned the Angels at the get-go starting in 1961. Now, number 29 is Rod Carew. I had to learn again that Rod not only was a twin, but a Angel. Number 30 is Nolan Ryan, who had a stint with my New York Mets, but we let him get away. Number 50, skipping over 42, is Jimmy Reese, and 42, of course, is Jackie Robinson. And in the last episode, episode 29 at Dodger Stadium, I talked quite a bit about the Jackie Robinson statue. And here, as I mentioned earlier, we were seated just 3 rows back, so we had an excellent view of the game. And these two guys had Trout jerseys on, and I mentioned the Ohtani cheering section as well. So what else did we do when we were in Anaheim? Well, one thing we did is we went to this museum, and you can see a dinosaur here. You can see the sign out front, and it's a solarized version of a picture, but the museum is called the Cube. It's really a science museum. I think this image is from the Cube. What else we got? If anything, of course, this was Brontosaurus or whatever from outside. Apatosaurus, if my grandsons are talking to me. And I think the totem pole may have actually come from there as well. So we saw the Cube, which was a science museum. Then we also went to the Anaheim Mall, and this is a negative of the color photograph of the entrance to that particular mall. We went to see the House of Blues that you see here. That's where we ate. And they had tribute to all kind of different blues players inside the restaurant House of Blues venue as well, where I think they have small concerts as well. But this is Robert Johnson, who back in the late 20s may have gotten things really going here for blues. Now, many of these other pictures on this screen are from Disneyland, of course. You can see the Magic Kingdom Castle. You can see the riverboat from Disneyland. You can see here the train station, and there is the train that circles the park. So it all began here in Disneyland, I think in 1955, the first amusement park that Walt Disney created. And while we were there, my wife and I walked for 10 miles. At that time, they were also celebrating a bit of the Day of the Dead or whatever, I think. And you can see that in that particular image. And what was new at Disneyland at that point in time was Galaxy Edge, the Galaxy Edge attraction, which is all about Star Wars, of course. And an interesting thing about Disneyland is it's constrained in terms of space. So if they're going to add something new, something old has to be taken away. And I'm not quite sure I can tell you what was taken away there, but we did enjoy Galaxy Edge. Here's a selfie from Disneyland, a little bit of a show, and Walt there with his buddy Mickey. I think, with the exception of a little bit of Shoei's scoreboard right prior to coming up to bat again, and if you blow this up, you'll see he was 0 for 2 at that point in time in the game. I think that's about it for episode number 30 here at Anaheim. What'll be next is San Diego as we drive down the coast and enjoy the best that San Diego has to offer. I do want to thank you for your attention during this particular episode, and I hope that you'll be back for episode 31.